My name is Haley Brennan, and I'm 32 years old. Have you ever had someone erase you so carefully, so completely, that you started to wonder if maybe they were right? 3 months ago, at my father's gala celebrating 25 years as chief of surgery at Fairview Medical Center, I sat at a table near the catering station with a paper nameplate someone had printed on regular copy paper and taped to a folding chair. The real nameplates, the ones engraved on thick cream cardstock with gold foil edges, were at the other tables. Every other table. The kind of moment where you sit very still, because if you move, if you react, you're giving them exactly what they want. My husband Theo was beside me, and what he did 40 minutes later is the reason I'm telling this story, but I need to go back 6 weeks, because none of it started at that gala. It started with a voicemail. I was in my car in the hospital parking garage, still in my scrubs, eating a granola bar at 7:15 in the evening after a 12-hour shift in the ICU. My phone buzzed, a voicemail from my stepmother. Not from my father. From Diane. Haley, hi. Just wanted to let you know your dad's gala is the 22nd. Black tie. The Claridge Ballroom at the Hartwell Hotel. 7 o'clock. He'd love for you to be there. He'd love for you to be there. Not call me. Not I'd love to have you. Diane speaking for him, the way she always did. The way she had for the past 18 years. I listened to it twice. Then I called my husband. She left a voicemail, I said when Theo picked up. Not your dad. Not my dad. A pause. Do you want to go? That was the question, wasn't it? My father and I hadn't had a real conversation in 4 months. Not since the holidays when he'd introduced my half-brother Spencer to his department head as the future of medicine in our family. I was standing 3 feet away when he said it. He didn't look at me. Part of me thinks maybe it's an opening, I said. Like maybe he wants to repair things. Theo didn't say anything. The other part of me knows Diane sent that voicemail. Yeah, I want to go, I said. I know I shouldn't, but I want to. Then we'll go. That night I noticed Theo on his laptop later than usual. The door to his home office closed. When he came to bed around midnight, I asked if everything was okay with work. Something came up, he said. Nothing to worry about. I believed him. I was too busy trying to convince myself the gala wasn't a trap. Over the next 2 weeks, I noticed things. Theo printing documents and folding them into his briefcase. Theo on the phone after dinner with the door closed, voice low and even. One evening I passed his office and saw a logo on his screen I didn't recognize. Viridian Health Partners? I didn't think much of it. Theo worked in healthcare consulting. Logos came and went. What's Meridian? I asked from the doorway. He closed the laptop, not fast, just deliberate. Research. I want to understand who's going to be in that room with you. It's a hospital gala, not a negotiation. Every room is a negotiation, he said, and smiled, and I thought he was being sweet. Protective. I didn't think he was preparing anything. I should have asked more. Diane called 4 days before the event. Voice smooth and warm the way it always was when she wanted something. Haley? Just confirming you and Theodore are coming. It's Theo, and yes, we'll be there. Wonderful. I wasn't sure given how busy your schedule must be. Nursing is so demanding. Nursing. Not the ICU, not critical care, just nursing. The way she said it like it explained everything. I'm a critical care nurse, I said, but yes, it's busy. Of course, Spencer will be at the main table, naturally, right next to your father. It's an important night for him. His research was just published in the New England Journal. Did you know that? Your father is just beside himself with pride. I waited for her to mention where Theo and I would be sitting. She didn't. Where should we? Oh, we'll find a lovely spot for you both. Don't worry, the room is beautiful this time of year. And Haley, are you wearing something appropriate? It's black tie, and there will be photographers from the hospital foundation. I have a dress, just making sure. The foundation donors can be particular about presentation. I'm sure you understand. I have addressed Diane. Silence. Then I'm sure it'll be a lovely evening for everyone. The word everyone stretched just slightly too long. She hung up. I stood in my kitchen holding my phone, that familiar pressure behind my sternum, the one I'd been carrying since I was 14 years old, and figured out that my father's second wife was not going to be my ally. Theo found me 20 minutes later. I told him about the call. She asked about you, I said. Whether you'd be comfortable, what you do. Like she was trying to figure out if you mattered. Good, he said quietly. Good. Let her think I don't. There was something in his voice I should have paid attention to, but he kissed my forehead and went back to his office, and I heard him on the phone again, talking low, using words like governance structure and equity stake and primary donor classification. Work stuff. Always work stuff. 2 days before the gala, Spencer texted me. He did that sometimes, checked in, asked how I was. Spencer wasn't a bad person. He was just Diane's son, shaped by 20 years of her priorities. We'd never been close, but we'd never been cruel to each other either. You going Saturday? He texted. Yeah. You obviously. Lo, Dad got me a new suit. Tom James. Custom. Said I needed to look the part. I looked at that message for a long time. Look the part. The part of what? What's happening Saturday exactly? I typed back. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. It's just the gala, Dad's 25th anniversary thing. He said you needed to look the part. The part of what, Spencer? Another pause. Then there might be an announcement. I don't know the details. You should ask Dad. Spencer, I really don't know, hey, I promise. He keeps saying it's about the foundation, some legacy thing. Legacy thing? I put my phone down. That evening, Theo asked me who held actual power at Fairview. Not prestige, he said. Actual power, the kind that controls funding. I thought about it. Dr. Leonard Hargrove. He chairs the hospital foundation board, controls most of the major donor relationships and the endowment fund. Theo wrote something in the small leather notebook he used for client meetings. Will he be there? He's always at these things. He and my dad have worked together since before I was born. Anyone from the state health department? Probably. My dad has connections there. Why does this matter? I just want to know what we're walking into. He asked more questions. The venue layouts, how the program would run, whether the gala was recorded or live streamed for donors who couldn't attend. I answered what I could, which wasn't much because, as I was beginning to realize, I hadn't been told much. When he finished asking, he looked at me for a moment. Haley. Yeah. If something happens Saturday and someone hurts you in that room, do you want me to stay quiet, or do you want me to handle it? My throat tightened. I don't want to make a scene. That's not what I asked. I looked at this man I'd married 4 years ago. Quiet, thorough, the kind of person who read the fine print, not because he was suspicious, but because he believed the fine print mattered. I can handle my family, I said. I know you can. I've watched you handle them your whole life. He paused. But you've also been handling them alone. Something in that landed differently than I expected. Okay, I said, if something happens, handle it. He nodded once. Then do you trust me? Whatever happens Saturday, do you trust me completely? Yes. Then remember that. No matter what you see me do. I should have asked what he meant. I felt relief instead of worry, which probably tells you everything about how tired I was of carrying my family by myself. Saturday came. We drove to the Hartwell Hotel in downtown Hartford, valet, a step and repeat banner outside the entrance, celebrating Dr. Franklin Brennan, 25 years of excellence in cardiac surgery. A photographer at the door with a clipboard. Names? Haley Brennan. He scanned the VIP list. Scanned a VIP list. Scanned again. Flipped to the back. General seating, he said. Not VIP. The heat crept up the back of my neck. Behind us, couples in evening gowns and tuxedos waited. The photographer waved us through without taking our photo. Theo's hand pressed lightly against my lower back. Keep moving, he said quietly. Inside the lobby, a seating chart stood on a large easel. Tables 1 through 6 were labeled Foundation Board and Distinguished Donors. I found my name near the bottom, added in different handwriting than the rest. Table 14. Near the service corridor, a woman beside me glanced at the chart, then at me. 14 is all the way in the back, isn't it? Are you with the catering company? No, I said. I'm Dr. Brennan's daughter. She looked genuinely confused. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know he had 2 children, I finished. Most people don't. She found somewhere else to be. Theo read the chart. His expression didn't change. He took my hand firmly and we walked. To reach table 14, we had to cross the entire ballroom. Past table 1, where Dr. Hargrove sat with the foundation trustees. Past the major donors at table 2. Past table 3, where my father sat with Diane and Spencer and 2 hospital administrators I recognized from holiday cards. My father saw me. His eyes touched mine for less than a second and moved on. Diane smiled, the composed, satisfied smile she'd had since I was a teenager. Spencer looked at his phone. Around us I heard it. Quiet, but not quiet enough. That's Frank's daughter from his first marriage. I didn't realize he had a daughter who was older. She's a nurse, I think. I see you somewhere. I only said I think because I didn't know for certain what was being said. But I knew the shape of it. I'd heard that shape my whole life. Table 14 was a round table pushed close to the service corridor doors. No floral centerpiece like the other tables, no candles. The nameplates at every other seat were the cream cardstock with gold foil. Mine was a piece of paper folded in half with my name written in ballpoint pen. A server approached, visibly uncertain. Ma'am, I'm sorry, this table is usually overflow for staff and volunteers. Are you? Was there a mix-up with your reservation? No mix-up, I said. This is where I was put. Can I get you a proper nameplate? I can ask. It's fine. It wasn't fine. But I sat down. The service corridor doors swung open behind me every few minutes, bringing noise and the smell of food and the reality of where I was sitting while my stepbrother was at table 3 in a custom suit. Theo sat beside me. He leaned close. Trust me tonight, he said. Not a reassurance, a reminder. The program started. Dr. Hargrove walked to the podium, silver-haired, the kind of person who could silence a room just by standing in it. Good evening. We're here tonight to honor a career that has shaped this institution and this community. Applause, warm and full. In 25 years, Dr. Purdon, Franklin Brennan has performed over 4,000 cardiac surgeries with outcomes that rank in the top 5% nationally. He's brought in more than $22 million in research and endowment funding and built partnerships that will outlast all of us. I watched my father at table 3, accepting the praise with the practiced humility of a man who had never doubted he deserved it. I had called him Dad until I was about 16. After that, it felt like a title he'd stopped earning. I still didn't know what to call him when I called at all. One partnership in particular, Hargrove continued, has been foundational to the work we're celebrating tonight. He paused. Meridian Health Partners. I felt Theo shift beside me. Just slightly, just enough. Meridian, the logo on his laptop screen. I turned to look at him. His eyes were forward, his face calm, but there was something coiled behind his expression. Ready. Hargrove stepped aside. My father stood. The room came to its feet. I didn't stand. 25 years ago, my father said, his voice carrying the confidence of a man who had spent a quarter-century being the most important person in every room, I walked into my first operating room believing that excellence wasn't a goal. It was a standard. People around me nodded, murmured agreement. I've spent my career teaching that the kind of medicine that matters isn't just technically skilled, it's visionary. It demands sacrifice and discipline. It demands that you hold yourself to a standard most people won't even attempt. He let that rest a moment, and nothing makes a parent prouder than watching their child choose that same standard. The camera at the front of the room rotated toward table 3. The screen behind the podium lit up. Spencer in his white coat, my father beside him in the operating suite, both of them photographed as if for a magazine. My son Spencer graduated in the top 10% of his class at Yale School of Medicine. He completed his residency at Johns Hopkins. He just published his first peer-reviewed research on minimally invasive valve repair in the New England Journal. My father's voice warmed in a way I had only ever heard directed at Spencer. He represents what this career was built toward. The screen cycled. Spencer at graduation. Spencer and my father at a conference. Spencer receiving some award I'd never been told about. Not one photograph included me. I understood then that he had done this deliberately. He had gone through years of family photographs and excluded me with precision. Not forgotten. Excluded. Building a legacy, my father said, means being honest about what has value. It means recognizing that not every path leads to the same destination. Medicine demands everything. Some people are built for that demand. A pause. Others make different choices. And those are valid choices, but they are different. He was looking at the room, not at me. He didn't have to look at me. Everyone at those surrounding tables had already done the math. His daughter. Table 14. A nurse. Diane smiled. Which brings me to the announcement I've been looking forward to making. The room quieted. Over the past 3 years, I've worked with the Fairview Foundation to establish something permanent. The Brennan Center for Cardiac Innovation. A dedicated research and training fund of $4.8 million, with an endowment structure designed to grow over the next decade. Applause, loud and long. $4.8 million? I'd had no idea. My father had been building this for 3 years, and I found out about the Gala through a voicemail from his wife. This center will be led by a board of directors who understand its mission. People committed to excellence in cardiac medicine, and I'm proud to announce that Spencer Brennan will serve as a founding board member representing the next generation of this work. Spencer stood. People at table 3 shook his hand. Cameras flashed. He'd known. The custom suit, the announcement, the photographs on that screen. He'd known for weeks, and no one had said a word to me. My father raised his champagne glass. Here's to the work. Here's to those who've earned their place at the table. He smiled. Presidential, satisfied. Because medicine doesn't grade on a curve. Neither does legacy. Only those who met the standard are part of this chapter. He looked out over the room. And then, for the first time since we'd walked in, his eyes landed on table 14. On me. The microphone was still live. Haley. His voice was polite, composed. The same tone he'd used for the entire speech. You don't need to stay. The ballroom went silent, the kind of silent that has mass. I felt every person in that room process what had just been said. 215 people, foundation donors and department heads and hospital administrators and physicians who had known my father for decades, all of them watching table 14. The service corridor doors stopped swinging. Even the servers had frozen. I had imagined this kind of moment before. Not this exact one, but the version of it that lives in your chest when you've been treated as optional for long enough. I'd imagined what I would say. The speech about 12-hour shifts and patients who were dying and what it actually means to care for someone in the worst moment of their life. The speech about how nursing in a cardiac ICU isn't a lesser version of cardiac surgery, it's the other side of the same coin, and without that side, the coin doesn't work. I didn't give that speech. I stood up. My chair scraped against the floor and the sound carried. I didn't cry, didn't speak. I just stood there and looked at him, calm and still, and I let him see that I was not ashamed of where I was sitting. And then I looked at Diane, then at Spencer, then back at my father. Then Theo stood up. He didn't take my hand. He didn't put his arm around me. He just stood and turned toward the podium and spoke. Dr. Brennan, I think there's something the room should know before anyone goes anywhere. His voice was measured, not loud. The acoustics did the work. My father blinked. I'm sorry, and you are? Theodore Weston, Haley's husband. He was already moving from table 14 toward the podium, calm and unhurried, like a man who had walked this route in his head many times. And I need to address something about the Brennan Center announcement. This is a private event, Dr. Chu. Hargrove, CEO said, directing himself to the foundation chairman at table 1. You'll want to hear this. Hargrove stood slowly, his expression careful, watchful. Theo reached the podium. My father moved to stop him. Theo simply looked at him, patient and immovable, until my father stepped back. Not because Theo was physically imposing, because Theo was certain, and certainty like his takes up more space than size. He faced the room the way he faced a boardroom. Calm, structured, with a clarity that said he had done this before and would be fine either way. Dr. Hargrove, he said. My name is Theodore Weston. I'm the founder and managing partner of Meridian Health Partners. The room didn't gasp. It went very still. The kind of still that means everyone is recalibrating. Hargrove's expression shifted. He knew Meridian. He absolutely knew Meridian. He absolutely knew Meridian. My father looked at Theo, then at Hargrove, then back at Theo. The color in his face changed. Meridian has been a funding partner of the Fairview Foundation for 7 years, Theo continued, his voice easy, factual. We've contributed to 3 major endowment structures here, including infrastructure that made the Brennan Center possible. For context, Meridian manages approximately $90 million in healthcare philanthropy across 42 hospital partners nationwide. Phones appeared around the room. People were recording. Diane put her hand on my father's arm. I saw her squeeze it, a warning. I'm raising this publicly, Theo said, because Dr. Brennan made a public announcement tonight, and that announcement has a problem. Hargrove walked toward the podium. His face showed that he already suspected where this was going. Theo took out his phone, swiped to a document. When Meridian enters philanthropic partnerships, we operate under a governance framework. Dr. Hargrove is familiar with it. He signed our 2022 renewal agreement personally. Hargrove nodded slowly. Yes, he did. Section 7.2 of that agreement, Theo said, governs board appointments and leadership positions connected to any endowment funded in whole or in part by Meridian Capital. He read from his phone, precise, unhurried. Any founding board member or trustee appointed to an endowment structure supported by Meridian funds must demonstrate a minimum of 5 years of direct patient-facing clinical experience in the specialty area the endowment serves, or an equivalent record of published research in that clinical area serving underserved or high-need patient populations. He let that settle. 5 years of direct patient-facing clinical experience, he repeated. He looked at Spencer. Spencer Brennan completed his residency 8 months ago. He has published 1 paper. He has no documented experience in underserved clinical settings. He paused. That's not a criticism, it's a timeline. 8 months is 8 months. Spencer's face was red. He was looking at his father, and his father was not looking back at him. In this room tonight, Theo said, turning toward table 14, toward me, there is 1 person who meets section 7.2 without qualification. He didn't perform it. He just said it. Haley Brennan Weston. 12 years as a registered nurse, 9 of them in cardiac ICU, 3 of them at St. Augustine Medical Center, which serves one of the highest uninsured patient populations in Connecticut. She has co-authored grant applications totaling $230,000 in resources for underserved cardiac patients. She has a record that the Meridian board reviewed without knowing she was my wife. I couldn't breathe. I hadn't known that last part. He had submitted my record without telling me. You just told her to leave. Theo said to my father, quietly, not with anger, just with the weight of what it meant. The room broke open. Not into applause, not yet. Into conversation, the kind that spreads fast through a room full of people who all know each other and are all realizing the same thing at the same time. I heard voices from multiple tables. He's right. Why isn't she on the board? Is he seriously the Meridian founder? I thought Meridian was. If the appointment violates the governance agreement, the whole endowment is at risk. How much is at risk? All of it if Meridian pulls out. All $22 million. Hargrove turned to my father. His voice was quiet, but the room was quieter. His voice was quiet, but the room was quieter. Franklin, my office. Monday morning. Howard, this is completely. He has no standing to walk in here and he has 22 million reasons, Hargrove said flatly. Diane stood up. Surely we can have this conversation in private, Mr. Weston. There's no need to. I'm being professional, Theo said. I'm asking you to honor your own agreement. He looked at Hargrove. I'd like 3 things. The board appointment is rescinded publicly tonight. A statement is issued acknowledging the qualifications of the person who should have been considered. And, his voice was even no drama, Dr. Dyer. Brennan doesn't contact his daughter unless she reaches out first. Hargrove looked at my father for a long moment. My father's face was doing something I had never seen it do, collapsing slowly from the inside. Jonathan, can you do that? Hargrove said. He used the wrong name and then corrected himself. Franklin, can you do that? This is my family, my father said. His voice was thin. This is my Gala. This is your legacy, Hargrove said. And right now your legacy is being recorded by approximately 30 phones and streamed to however many people are watching. He glanced at a woman near the wall who'd gone pale and was making calls. The hospital's communications director, Franklin, rescinded. Tonight. I watched it happen in real time. My father, who had spent 25 years being the most certain person in any room he entered, standing at a podium in front of everyone who had ever mattered to his professional life, unable to find an argument that worked. Diane pulled Spencer toward the side exit. Spencer looked back once at me, and his expression was something I didn't expect. Not embarrassment, something more like regret. Spencer didn't know, I thought. I didn't know if it was true, but I thought it. My father stepped back from the podium. He looked at Hargrove, who gave him nothing. He looked out at the room, which gave him even less. The board members at table 1 were already talking quietly among themselves, the way people talk when they're deciding what to do next. And the person who caused the problem is no longer relevant to the decision. The appointment will be reviewed, my father said. Stiff, formal, his retreat strategy. Rescinded, Hargrove said. Tonight. A pause that lasted several seconds. Rescinded, my father said. Theo stepped back from the podium. He descended the 3 steps and walked back toward table 14. Back toward me. I stood up. I smoothed my dress. I took one full breath, and then I did something I had rehearsed in my head many times without ever knowing it. I walked toward the podium, not because I had a speech prepared, not to make a point, just because I had spent the last 3 hours walking away from things in that room and I was done doing that. I walked through the center aisle, past the foundation trustees at table 1, past the donors, past table 3, which was mostly empty now. I passed my father. He was standing just off the podium steps. He looked at me and I could see that he wanted to say something and had no idea what it was. I didn't stop. I had spent 12 years being good at my job in rooms where nobody gave me credit, and it had never made me less good at my job. His approval was not the variable. I reached Theo and I took his arm. We walked out together through the center aisle, the one with the good carpet and the chandeliers overhead, the aisle meant for people who had been officially acknowledged. Behind us I heard clapping. Not the whole room, maybe 30 or 40 people. Younger doctors, nurses who'd come as +1s, a few foundation staff members who probably had their own table 14 stories. Someone called out something I didn't quite catch, but the tone was clear. I didn't turn around. I kept my shoulders back and walked. In the lobby, Theo asked if I wanted a minute. No, I said, I want to go home. We did. The video someone live-streamed from the ballroom had 160,000 viewers by the time we got home. By morning, it was over 2 million. The headline a local news outlet ran, Hospital Gala turns when surgeon's daughter, an ICU nurse, is told to leave, and her husband turns out to be the foundation's major donor. My father released a statement 4 days later about pursuing other priorities and stepping back from his role in the Brennan Center's oversight. The center was renamed by the foundation board within 2 weeks. Spencer's board appointment was formally rescinded and replaced by a committee that included 2 nurses and a community health advocate. Spencer texted me 3 weeks later. It said, I didn't know about the Section 7 clause. I didn't know where they put you at the gala either. I'm sorry. I didn't respond right away. I sat with it for a few days, Eventually I wrote back, I know you didn't. We can talk sometime. We haven't yet, but the door is open. Diane moved to Scottsdale 6 months after the gala. She sends the occasional email. I read them the same way I read legal notices, carefully and without feeling much. My father called in February. I let it go to voicemail. He said he wanted to talk. He said he'd been wrong. He said the word sorry twice, which was 2 more times than I'd ever heard it from him growing up. I listened to the voicemail 4 times, not because I needed to hear it again, but because I was trying to figure out what I actually wanted. I called him back on a Tuesday morning before my shift. I'll meet you, I said. Once. Coffee. Public place. And I need one thing from you before we sit down. What's that? You bring a photo of my mom, and you say her name out loud. Silence. My mother's name was Carol, I said. Carol Ann Brennan. She died when I was 11. You haven't said her name to me in 16 years. If you can do that, we can have coffee and see what comes next. Another silence, then, okay. We met at a place near the hospital, neutral ground, a coffee shop where nobody knew either of us. He brought a photo I had never seen, my mother and him at what looked like a hospital fundraiser before they were married, before Spencer. Before Diane, when she was still alive and smiling in a blue dress, and my father was younger and looked like someone who still felt things. His hands were not steady holding it. Her name was Carol, he said. Carol Ann Brennan. His voice cracked on the last syllable. Just slightly. Just enough. We talked for 40 minutes. He explained things I'd suspected and things I hadn't. He said the word grief in ways that suggested he'd finally talked to someone about it. A therapist maybe recently. He said he was sorry more times than I'd expected, and I stopped counting. When he finished, I said, I don't need you to be proud of me. I stopped needing that a long time ago. What I needed was for you to see me, see what I actually do and who I actually am. You never tried. I know, knowing doesn't undo it. No, he said. It doesn't. We can try coffee once a month, I said. That's all I'm offering right now. Not a relationship, not forgiveness, just coffee and honesty. If you can do that without making my worth conditional again, we can keep going. If you can't, we stop. I can do that. Good. We finished our coffee. I left first. He stayed. In the months since the gala, Theo and I established a fund through Meridian called the Carol Brennan Nursing Excellence Award. It's specifically for nurses working in cardiac care at safety net hospitals, the hospitals that serve patients who can't pay, patients who are most likely to delay care until they have no choice. We funded 5 full tuition scholarships in the first year for nurses pursuing advanced certifications. The applications were extraordinary. I read every one. I'm still in the ICU. Same unit, same floor, same Wednesday morning team huddles where we talk about which patients are critical and which are turning a corner. My salary is $71,000 a year, which is not what my father makes, and is not what Theo makes, and is enough. A few months ago, one of my patients, a 73-year-old retired teacher named Mr. Kowalski, asked me how I got into nursing. I told him the short version. My mom was a hospital volunteer. I used to go with her on weekends. I liked the way the nurses talked to people, the way they stayed. You're good at it, he said. He was in day 4 of a rough recovery, still on supplemental oxygen. The kind of tired that lives in your face. You make it feel less scary. I thought about table 14, about the paper nameplate, about walking out through the center aisle. Thank you, I said. That's why I'm here. I meant the ICU. I also meant something bigger than that, and I think he understood because he nodded like he did. Theo picks me up from the hospital sometimes, on the long days, the shifts that run over because they always run over. He brings coffee and sits in the car and doesn't ask how it went until I've had a few minutes of quiet. He knows the difference between the days I need to talk and the days I need to decompress, and I didn't teach him that distinction. He just learned it because he was paying attention. The photo of my mother is on the mantle now, not in a box, not in a drawer. On the mantle where I can see it when I come home, she's standing outside a hospital, not the one I work at, but one that looks similar, in a green jacket, laughing at something off camera. Someone told me she had the kind of laugh you could hear from 2 rooms away. I think I remember it. I'm not always sure if I'm remembering or constructing, but I think I can hear it when I look at the photo. Some things you carry because you have to. Some things you carry because you're afraid to put them down. Afraid of what it means to stop. What I learned that night at table 14, walking out to the center aisle while 30 people clapped and my father's retirement gala played itself out without me, is that the difference between those 2 kinds of carrying is enormous. I put down the thing I was never supposed to hold. I'm still a nurse. I still work weekends. I still eat granola bars in parking garages at 7 in the evening. My legacy, if I have one, will be built in increments, in rooms with linoleum floors and beeping monitors, in the 45 seconds when someone is scared and I am calm and that matters. That's enough. It was always enough. I just needed to stop waiting for permission to know it. I've thought a lot about what my father actually built over 25 years. Not the surgeries, not the endowment, not the reputation. I mean what he built inside his own house, inside his own family. Because the thing about the choices we make toward the people closest to us is that they compound. Every unanswered question, every room we walk out of, every time we let someone else decide who matters, those things don't disappear. They accumulate. And eventually, they show up somewhere public, under chandeliers, in front of 200 people where nobody can pretend they didn't see. That night at the Hartwell Hotel was the result of 18 years of small decisions my father made. He chose Diane's comfort over my presence. He chose Spencer's resume over my reality. He chose a version of legacy that fit on a slide deck and excluded anything that didn't photograph well. None of those choices were accidents. They were direction, and directions followed long enough take you somewhere specific. What I keep returning to is the word integrity. Not the version people use when they want to sound serious in a meeting. The real version. The structural kind, like a building has integrity when its parts are actually connected to each other and bearing the weight they're supposed to bear. My father built a public legacy and a private one, and he kept them completely separate. His public self was generous, visionary, committed to excellence. His private self left his daughter a paper nameplate at a folding chair near the kitchen. That gap, that structural failure, is what Theo walked into with a phone and a governance clause and $22 million in funding relationships. I didn't plan any of it. I want to be honest about that. I went to that gala still half hoping for something I never got. That's not strength. That's just the thing you do when you love someone who has repeatedly failed to love you back correctly. You keep showing up. You keep leaving the door open. And sometimes the act of showing up one last time is what finally forces the truth into a room where it can't be ignored. What I've learned, sitting with all of it across these months, is that integrity and intelligence are not separate qualities. The clearest thinking I did in my entire career was staying in that ICU when I could have gone into administration for better pay and cleaner hours. I stayed because I understood what the work actually required, and I was willing to meet that requirement even when nobody was watching and nobody was crediting it. That is a form of intelligence my father never recognized in me. He was looking for a different kind. The kind that gets published and photographed and placed at table 3. And the resilience. I don't want to make it sound neat. It wasn't. It was 12 years of showing up to a job that mattered while being quietly edited out of the family story. It was going to that gala knowing it might hurt and going anyway because I wasn't willing to let fear of being hurt make my decisions for me anymore. Resilience isn't the absence of pain. It's the decision that the pain doesn't get to be the last word. My father is trying now, slowly, awkwardly, the way people try when they've run out of other options and finally have to be honest. I don't know if it becomes something real, but I know that whatever it becomes, it will be built on actual ground this time. Not on silence, not on Diane's management, on his name out loud for my mother, on coffee once a month, on truth. That's the only foundation worth building anything on.